Hey y'all, welcome back to the Laidback Homestead. I'm Crystal, and today is the day we are transitioning our garden from winter to spring. We started all of these by seed. We've been taking care of them, watering them, hardening them off, fertilizing them, and today is the day where some of them get to graduate and go into the ground. But first, we have to get our yard turned over. I am forever getting asked about my reflectors and whether or not these are used as bird deterrent. They are indeed not. They're here just to stake up my plants as they get taller. I have not found these to deter birds from pecking my tomatoes. What I have found that works though is setting up a space, the back corner of my yard, for the birds. I have a bird bath here for water, a bird feeder, and if you are looking for awesome bird feeders, I suggest you check out Kingsyard's Amazon account. I will have them linked down below in the description box. They have been kind enough to offer us a 20% discount to our viewers, and I'll have that coupon code for you down below as well. The birds absolutely love coming over here, and I know since I started adding bird feeders and the bird bath to my yard last year, I have not had a single tomato pecked all of last spring or fall. So going into this spring, I am making sure we are loaded up, both food and water. Now, one of the things I promised myself this year that I was going to be better at was actually saving seeds. I ran into quite a lot of issues this past winter when I was starting my spring seeds, and I had very low germination rates with pepper seeds, and those were new. So what I decided to do is my New Year's resolution this year was to make sure that I saved as many of my own seeds as possible. Now, right now, obviously, I'm not currently trying to save tomato or pepper seeds because it's just not that season. But we do have a ton of brassicas that have flowered, and I can save those seeds. And if you're not familiar with saving brassica seeds, this was my twin broccoli. So to me, the genetics of this is very important because I've never had a twin broccoli, two main heads plus multiple offshoots. So you can see the bees are really doing the work here. I'm not having to do anything but sit back and watch them. They're working hard handling that for me. And now you can see once the flowers are all spent, you end up with all these tiny seed pods. Try not to get in their way. But you can see all these tiny seed pods that will plump up with seeds. So those are going to stay until I feel that they have dried out enough, and then I will harvest that. My garden space is in various stages of growth. I have this bed up here that was a little bit delayed and is just now starting to set some heads. I'm actually going to let them stay. Chamomile in the back that really finally looks like it's taking off. It's kind of hard to see, it's in the shadow. I have this Napa cabbage that looks like it is seeding, as well as that one. So we'll go ahead and pull those because they're not going to do anything at this point. This bed is pretty much just all parsley and a little bit of cilantro. And then of course over here, I've got my gorgeous apple blossom snapdragons from last year. They are still blooming. They bloomed all summer, winter, fall, and now in spring again. So that's exciting. And here are the little seed pods. I have been coming out and harvesting these so that I can start more of them. The seeds are inside of there. And then you can see we do have some failures. Not everything is a success, and that's okay. We learn from every one of them. So over here we have a cabbage we're going to pull today. Now this was a Napa cabbage that didn't do anything. He went straight to seed with the stress of the weather. You can see again, just like the other brassica, flowers turn into seed pods. So I may leave one maturing broccoli plant, one maturing cabbage plant so that I can harvest those seeds later on. But I think everybody else is going to go. Here we have a nice one that's headed. So I think we're going to pull that baby today. So the first step to getting able to transplant out my tomatoes, I have to deal with all of that, and I have to go through and harvest what is actually still usable. The first thing I'm going to harvest, believe it or not, is all of this parsley because it grew well all last year. Just coming in and snipping it, giving it a nice haircut. But I want to make a batch of chimichurri sauce that I will then store in my freezer. I put it in food processor, whatever ingredients I want to use at that time, pulse it up and into ice cube trays. The other thing I went around my yard and got was all of my cilantro, because cilantro, unlike parsley, does not grow here. In fact, they're all trying to bolt. It's in the low 70s, I mean 73, mid 70s today, Fahrenheit, and everything's trying to go to seed. And while I will let them eventually do that, because then free seed, and that's all of this was grown from last year's save seeds. I went around and just sprinkled the dried seeds in the beds, didn't even bury them, didn't even really water them, and kind of let nature do its thing. The rain handled it, and I have cilantro in multiple places in my yard. But I've already harvested one batch. I wanted to get the rest because what I like to do, kind of similar with the parsley, is I will put this in the food processor with onions. And when my tomatoes actually come on, I will have my cilantro and onion already pre-chopped and ready to go to make salsa. I have a nice little head of Green Acres cabbage here that I'm going to take with me. So here we have our celery, which I am going to leave our celery in here. This is the goldenrod celery. So it is meant to be yellow or have a yellowish hue to it. But I am going to take this guy out. Got that. So once we've chopped and dropped everything in this bed that we're not keeping, we are keeping our daisies. See if they do anything. They look a little leggy. This back bed doesn't get as much sunlight, but my understanding is they're not going to appreciate our heat. So I'm thinking that once we start getting more sunlight, they may actually be okay with a little bit of shade. And our celery. The next step is to put a bag of compost right on top of all of it. As messy as it looks, I do this every single year, and I grow a lot of food. And all of this will break down naturally and provide food and nutrition to the worms. I have worms in every bed, even though my beds are not open to the ground. The worms still find a way, crawl up the sides or whatever. However they do it, they do it. This is always the hardest part of the year for me, is deciding what all to take, who all to pull, and who to leave. I go through this weird sense of I don't want to pull anybody, but then in the same breath, I know I've got to get tomatoes in the ground. I don't know. Am I the only one that feels that way when they have to pull plants? It just seems wrong, but in the same way, necessary. So while he is adding the compost to our chop and dropped beds, I'm going to come over to the side garden. What is there to take? Now, the garlic does not look ready to me yet, so I'm not going to take that. I'm not sure any of these things are really going to have time to do what they need to do. A little disappointed because I thought that this side of the yard would outperform my main beds, and it didn't. It really did not. I do have a couple of things in here I can harvest. You can see a lot of the stuff just stayed puny. Didn't really do anything. I don't really understand why that is, because it got the most sun. Beautiful black radish. Now my favorite part, the hydroponic harvest. We will eat the top baby leaves, but the rest of them will all make wonderful compost. So that I will be putting into my compost tumbler. And the roots will also go into the compost tumbler. So I'm leaving my 2 big cabbages in here. I'm hoping they'll head up soon. They feel like they're trying to. So I'm hoping that now that we're getting more sunlight, more daylight hours, that they will actually do something. This guy I'm leaving, that may be a mistake. I don't know what it is. There's no head on it yet. I feel like I'm playing a waiting game. I'll give him a little bit more time, but if something doesn't happen soon, he's got to go. I have no idea what that is. So now that we've come through, chopped and dropped, I'm going to amend this soil before I plant out in it. Now, I used to put my amendments directly into the hole where I plant, and that worked fine, honestly, for years until last year. Last year, I lost some plants, and they all looked like they suffered from fertilizer burn. So now I do not put my amendments directly in the hole where I'm planting. So I know I'm going to be putting 9 plants in here, as well as something that I can plant along this trellis. So I'm just going to make a little bit of a well here. First thing I add, wood ash, straight from our burn pile. Put that in there. Then what I do is I go in with just some granular. And because I'm not planting directly on top of this row or this line, I go in a little heavy. Because remember, my beds are closed at the bottom. So anything that gets dissolved will just end up in their water reservoir. And the last thing I like to add is just a little bit of alfalfa pellets for a little bit of extra nitrogen boost to the bed. And now we have to lay out where we want our plants to actually go. So looking out, I track the sun. The sun comes up over my roof, passes by my neighbors, and sets back there. And it's important to know that when you're placing your plants, especially things that can get tall like tomatoes. So I'm only planting out the ones that are ready to graduate. This is banana legs. Next up, new to me this year also, saucy lady. Just be really gentle. Some of them have much more defined root systems than others. And I just kind of pull it a little bit apart like that. Very nice. Down they go. Oh, this one's almost, he's already starting with little side shoots. This is the speckled Roman, again, new to me. Now, what I like to do in my beds, I like to put a variety of things in here. My shorter plants will go at the front, again, due to the sun trajectory. Those 3 will be peppers because they tend to just stay shorter. I'm also going to have similar plants growing hydroponically. So I like to see who does better in the ground and who does better in my systems, or if it matters at all. You don't want leaves touching the ground, so pull those off. And once I get my entire garden planted out, I will come back through and mulch with some sort of shavings. And that will also help prevent things from touching the ground. Worst case scenario, in a week or so, I expect these things to really take off, and I'll come through and prune off anything that's still touching the compost. This is another banana legs. This one's not new to me, but it was a great producer last year, and that is the cream sausage. It did really well for me actually in my 5-gallon bucket, self-watering buckets. But I figured this year I will try it in the full bed and see how it does here. This also I grew last year, garden paste. This absolutely outperformed any other paste variety I had. It was a hybrid, so I didn't save seeds, and I had a few seeds left over. And so I really wanted to make sure I grew out the rest of these so that I can hopefully propagate them in the fall. If you're looking for something that just outperformed, and I mean kept performing, it kept going until we hit our freeze. Now, if you've been following along on this journey with me, you know my peppers were extremely stunted due to poor germination and just having to constantly be restarting over and over and over. And I do have my own peppers started from seed, but they're not nearly ready to come out yet. But my local garden nursery did have some for sale. So I'm going to put 3 here. First up is cayenne. Then we have a very healthy mucho macho jalapeno. First time I've heard of that variety. And this one is a sweet bell pepper called Baron Bell. Never heard of that one either, so I thought I'd give it a try. If you've grown this before, let me know how it does. I don't know if it's a hybrid or not. It's the only thing I can't tell from the local nursery's tags. Now we just top water everybody in. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but you can see at the bottom, that dark layer, that is the water reservoir. So this bed is pretty full, but because these are fresh transplants, we want to make sure they don't go into any type of shock. This is the first of the 2026 garden planted out. The last step in this planting out process is very important to me, and I promised myself this year I'd be better at it, and that is write down what you planted and where. Whether that means you draw a picture, a diagram, something. If you care, like I do, about trying to find the best varieties that work in your microclimate, write down what you plant. I started over 40 varieties of tomatoes for this spring season. And it doesn't matter that they have tags planted next to them. It doesn't matter what I use to write on the tags. The sun here in the Southeast Louisiana heat during the summer is brutal. And all of my things fade half the time by the time we're done planting out. Because I will come through and put some flowers and bits and bobs in. Half the time, the tags just get lost. Come through, we mulch, the tags get covered. It just happens. So right now, I will take the time. I will write down what bed this is, what's planted where. That way I have a record. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us today. Those are going to be my gambler plants as we patiently wait to see what the next month will bring weather-wise. But down here, we really have to roll the dice early sometimes. I didn't plan out my hydroponic system today because the more I thought about it, the more I want to do a more in-depth video, just kind of going over the nutrients that I use and how I calculate that, because it's a different process than growing in the ground. I do think this year, though, I am going to use Master Blend to fertilize not just what I grow hydroponically, but in the beds as well. So that will be kind of new to me. I haven't done that before, but I think it'll work well. I'd love to know, what is your favorite fertilizer? Do you even bother? I've grown for years. Sometimes I don't even bother, but because I compost in place, it doesn't always feel necessary. But I'd like to be a little bit more consistent with that this year. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're into gardening and homesteading content, I encourage you to subscribe. And until next time, stay blessed.